and I'm a mom. It's my real life, and that's the piece when you see it and you go, you are making people want to kill me. It's not just a tabloid. It's not just some story. You are making me scared, right? And like that night, to be up and down in the middle of the night, looking down my hallway, like, are we safe? Are the doors locked? Is security on? Is everything? That's real. Are my babies safe?
How do you go from saying that royal life was unbearable, difficult, damaging to your mental health, enough for you to just leave the entire country, and 6 years later, you have enrolled your kids into British schools? Make it make sense. So, you guys, I'm sure you all know about this crazy breaking news thing that came up last week about Harry and Meghan returning to the UK with their kids. So I don't think this was on anybody's 2026 bingo card. In my mind, these guys were done, completely done with the UK, especially Meghan. Like, we've seen Harry go back and forth. We know he, obviously he has ties to the country. That's where he was born. That's where his dad and his brother live, and his sister-in-law. So I never thought this would happen, with Meghan. And, after everything we have seen on the interviews, the Oprah interview, the Netflix interviews, it is just a lot to take in. So how did we get to this point, you guys? So you guys remember Harry and Meghan quit royal life back in 2020? And it was such a big story then. They were like, we are not going to be able to do this. We do not want to be senior members of the royal family. They wanted to be financially independent and divide their time between Britain and North America. So yeah, so the way they portrayed things, the things they said, um, it was just a lot to take in. So obviously, the main issue was that Meghan was not receiving fair treatment on the tabloids. Harry was very concerned about her well-being, about her security, and he didn't want Meghan to have the same experience as his mom, Diana. You know, he wanted her to have a normal life away from, just a normal life, especially now that, they were starting out. So a year after leaving the royal family, Harry and Meghan sat down with Oprah Winfrey, where the two aired enormous allegations about their experiences with the royal family. Meghan said that she had, while pregnant, she experienced suicidal thoughts, and that she sought help, but she was told that there's nothing the institution could do for her. And then there were discussions about the color of Archie's skin, his skin tone. There were concerns by someone in the royal family, who Harry said they will never ever mention, about, yeah, the skin tone of their child, the child that they were expecting. So yeah, you guys, I cannot even begin to imagine this kind of thing. Yeah, so Harry apparently felt trapped in the royal family. He was financially cut off, allegedly. His dad stopped taking calls from him. Yeah, so you guys, up to this point, I don't even know how there would be a return ticket to go back to that kind of situation. It's just so scary. It is so overwhelming that this is, what they have to do. Like, can you imagine having to go back to a situation that you left because you apparently, allegedly, were mistreated? So yeah, the royal family had a response, obviously, and they said that the recollections vary about, especially about the Archie skin tone story, and obviously there was a strain in the relationship. Like, this just made things so much worse. A huge issue, you guys. So obviously the royal family, you know how they are, they carry themselves with poise and with privacy. And so this interview really was the straw that broke the camel's back. I can only imagine how William reacted, because a lot of it was also in that spare book. But anyway, let me not get ahead. So yeah, Harry and Meghan felt like they needed to tell their story, because obviously they felt like the media was against them, that their story was distorted. And yeah, so you you guys remember that there were so many, there was a lot of tension, even at the Queen's funeral. I remember it was just so tense, you could cut the tension with a knife. So Harry and Meghan had another interview December of 2022, where they expanded on their interview with Oprah. They discussed the British press, the racism that Meghan endured, the palace culture, how people relate in the royal palace and the households, and all the disagreements within the family. Apparently, according to the way they portrayed the story, it's like there was drama just outside of them, within the royal family and the households, and they were like, we are not going to be involved in this. So yeah, obviously bringing to light anything to do with the royal family in this way obviously was not going to be taken lightly. But they were not done yet. Harry wrote that spare book, which I read, and I could not believe some of the things that I read in the book. I just was, my mouth was ajar. Yes, this was very, very personal. Everything was laid bare in this book. One of the biggest revelations that was, revealed was Harry and William's alleged physical confrontation during a 2019 argument about Meghan, you guys. Harry claimed that William called Meghan difficult, rude, abrasive, and knocked him to the floor during the confrontation. Can you guys even begin to imagine this? So William obviously never said anything about this. He never responded. Um, yeah, that was just unbelievable. You know how we've seen the two princes with their mom, and with how they, with their life, and how they come, how we see them in public, and the poise, and the the gentlemanness, and all the royalty. And then to hear that they did this, it's almost hard to believe. It's very hard to believe, but this is Harry's story. And also Harry talks about his life and how he had to be the spare. And it's so painful, as he narrates about his life and his experience, and his position in the royal, the royal line thing, which I don't understand. Obviously, this made the whole reconciliation even much, much more difficult, you guys. So obviously, just based on how we see Harry going back and forth, obviously the king has a soft spot. This is his son. But I don't think William is there yet. Obviously, the king looks like he would want the two sons to reconcile and to live harmoniously. We don't know whether this is part of the whole goal of them coming back, to just mend. I remember reading somewhere that Kate wanted the two brothers to reconcile. I don't know whether Kate and William are involved in this. Maybe, behind the scenes, this is something that, the royal family is open to, because now, Harry and Meghan have children. Obviously, they want the cousins to get along. Maybe the cousins are growing up and they're wondering, why is Harry, their uncle, who they used to see, all the way in California? Like, these are things that are hard to explain to children. And maybe, this is what I'm imagining, you guys. I'm not saying it happened. Maybe Harry is over there with Meghan and he's talking about his family to the kids and the king. And the kids are like, well, why are we here then? Why are you not in the palace? Why are we in California if the family is in the UK? Like, these are things that kids, and kids how they are, they ask very difficult questions that are embarrassing for adults, and you're stuck, wondering what do you even say. So, you guys, I cannot even begin to imagine how this is going to be. Obviously, now that, well, you guys, Harry and Meghan are returning as private citizens, so I don't think we're going to see them mingling, with Kate and William. But it's a small town. There's going to be obviously some kind of this is why I feel like no matter what Kate and William feel about Harry and Meghan, I feel like the king is going to call a meeting where he's going to talk about the monarchy, about how he would want them to behave when William becomes king. And obviously it's going to be very awkward if there's tension between the two families, that is Harry and Meghan and Kate and William. So obviously I think the king is going to talk to them. He's going to tell them that they need to put this behind them, whatever rifts they have, for the sake of the children as well. That way they can come into public life without that awkwardness, and people can also move on, because the whole tension is also making, there's also a rift between Harry and Meghan fans, Kate and William fans, and also there's like a lot of division between the fabulous four. You guys remember when when Meghan was married, there was like, oh my god, they're going to be this fabulous group of four royals. We're going to see them up and about. We're going to look at Kate's fashion. We're going to look at Meghan's fashion. Oh my god, it's going to be so much fun. And nothing like that happened. So in my mind, I'm thinking the king is trying to revive that whole vibe that people had, when Harry and Meghan got married. You guys, let me know what you think about this story. Then we have the security concern. So obviously, Harry and Meghan are very famous people, and to go out and about, they need security. So Harry was very upset when security was withdrawn, as I believe, as I understand. I hope I'm getting it right. I believe when they said they were stepping back from royal life, the security that was accorded to them as royals was pulled back. And so, yeah, this, he said there was no way he could see him and his family living in the UK without security. So this is very weird, because obviously something has been planned behind the scenes, because why else would he return if he said that, he was concerned about his family's safety? And you guys, he lost, he went to court, I believe, about this, and he lost the the case. And Harry has talked about wanting a reconciliation, and yeah, maybe he's worried about the security now that maybe private security is more expensive. I don't know. um so many things are happening behind the scenes with Harry and Meghan. Maybe it's the security, family arrangements, family circumstances. Now, they have kids. Things are not just about them anymore. So, and then obviously, I'm thinking the King Charles and Harry relationship is very important to the king and his son. And I think my gut feeling tells me that this is actually why they're moving back, for the son, and for the family, for the king to spend more time with his grandkids, and also for Harry obviously wants to reconcile with his dad. I feel like he's open to reconciling with William when he's ready, but since his dad is okay with it, I think he's like, maybe he's had so much time to think. He's been away. Sometimes that's what you need. You just need to be away to just see how, to let the pieces fall into place. And maybe after all this time, and they have kids, maybe he's thinking, what are we even fighting about? What is the issue? I would want to know your kids. I would want you to meet my kids. And obviously with the king being unwell, that can change everything. That can change priorities, you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Then obviously we have the American dream. Where did it all go wrong for them? When Meghan came in, she was the hottest piece of you know, asset. Everyone wanted to just work with her. Everyone wanted to do business with her. The whole thing with moving to California was them looking for freedom, financial independence, privacy more than anything, raising their children outside the royal bubble, Hollywood opportunities, Netflix opportunities, Spotify, Actual, all these things, Harry's projects. It was just, we were like everywhere they were the it thing. So what happened 6 years later? Their Netflix documentary obviously drew a lot of attention. Spare was a blockbuster, obviously, but not everything worked out. Spotify canceled their deal with them back in 2023, and their Netflix arrangement did not go as planned. Some things were successful, others were not so much. And so apparently they're planning on keeping them on Montecito home, even though a lot of people are saying, oh, it's going to be almost impossible with the cost of maintaining that property. But I don't know about that. We're going to just have to wait and see. I'm not surprised. In fact, you guys, I just never thought Harry would really do it all the way. I just thought, and I'm sorry to say, I thought they would divorce while in California and he would return. And yeah, I just never saw him permanently. I like, when I looked at the videos of him, when you saw him in public, he just never looked like he just never fitted in really. He felt like he was lost. He looked lost in my view, the way I saw him. And you could just see there was this void in him, in his eyes. I'm not saying that he's not happy with his family, but it's almost like something was missing. And yeah, so him, I could see him returning, but Meghan, I just don't know how it's going to be for her. I'm worried that this is going to be, because remember, if those things that made them leave, the tabloids are going to be extra crazy. The people don't like Meghan. In fact, she was allegedly supposed to be in a show or a series called The Gentleman. I don't know what it's about. It's a Netflix series. And the backlash to her being in this series is so high that they have allegedly taken her out of the cast. Can you believe it? And she hasn't even returned yet, you guys. I'm really worried about her well-being. I'm just wondering why they just didn't continue to having that same structure where Harry would just go back and forth. That was really easy to do. But them having to move back, it's just, I don't know how it's going to be. Leaving California, weather where it never rains, where it's always blue skies, you know. I just don't know how it's going to be for Meghan. I don't know how it's going to be for her mental health, you guys. She described going through profound loneliness, mental health struggles, negative press, feeling unprotected. Obviously, she's now going back as a private citizen, and I just don't know. I don't know how she's going to live there. without friends, in that dreary UK weather. The winters there are harsh. You guys, let me know what you think about this. So yeah, you guys, I'm thinking, I don't think this was an easy decision to, for them. And I feel like no matter what Harry and Meghan feel, especially Meghan, I feel like Meghan was probably told, you have to think about the kids. The king is their grandfather, and they don't even know him. It would be nice if they could spend more time with him, and their heritage is British. And like I said, you guys, they're probably asking really difficult questions that, are not easy to answer. And, maybe the only way to answer is to, make the move, having to have, and then also maybe Harry was like, I cannot live with myself, having Archie and Lilibet being separate, or, all the miles away from their grandfather. And, he's older, and he's not feeling well. And I feel like, the king may have said, I will, we will make arrangements, we'll make everything right for you guys to make the move. That's the only way I'm seeing Meghan making this move, because I don't see, and obviously there's talk of her going back to acting. Acting is a big thing for Meghan. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see, you guys. So you guys, these are my three, what I think happened. So to conclude, Harry wants reconciliation. The king has, or probably wants reconciliation, and then his health has accelerated the reconciliation process. That's my first theory of why they're returning. Second thing, the children. So when they first came back, I think they were only with Archie, and things obviously have changed. It's not about them anymore. Now they're a family of four. They have relatives across the pond, and who knows? Maybe William is also telling Harry, that his kids are asking about him, and maybe they're like, this has to end. We have to get the wives together. This whole rivalry has to end. That is number two for me. Third thing, Harry may have realized that even if he's a spare, he's still royal, and he's of royal heritage. And even if he was frightened, maybe the best thing to do is just face your fears, not to run away, just face them. So you guys, I cannot even begin to imagine the behind the scenes. I don't think this decision is easy, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. You guys, what do you think is going on? Let me know in the comments below, in the comment section, and I will see you on the next one. If you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe for more.